we're talking rumor mill. This one on the defensive side of the ball. Could the New York Jets be using a premium asset to solve cornerback one?
Jets!
All right, welcome to Jets Talk. My name is Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, it's good to be back making a video for you. I was doing a little bit of travel in the last week or so. Got to see my good buddy Green Bean out in Arizona. It was a lot of fun. Good times all around, but I come back and we got a little bit of drama. That's right, drama llama news revolving around the defensive side of the ball, and a little bit of breadcrumbs dropped by DJ Bienemy on the Badlands podcast with Joe Caparosa. So let's take a listen into the audio and break down what he said throughout the interview.
You can't be able to win a lot of games with the secondary that the Jets have right now. I think you got to bolster with a little more talent. And again, talking to people in the building. And when I say talking to people in the building, I'm not talking about I talk to, the security guard at the gate or the chef. Like, I'm talking about people that have influence on the decisions that should be made. One guy told me that some guys were literally targeting Bryce Hall. Like, one guy told me he had offensive coordinator come up to him after the game and tell him that we were going after 37 because we knew he doesn't have any ball skills, and we knew that he's not going to intercept the ball. So we're not going to – if we go at him and we get an incompletion, like, we're cool with that because we know it's not going to turn into a turnover. Let me see. And then, another guy who just told me, hey, I really want to use a top 10 pick or premium. They use the word premium assets, whether it's top 10 pick or the money to get a number one legitimate cornerback, because that expands what we can do defensively from a schematic standpoint. He mentioned, okay, maybe, there could be an instance where, the DC wants to put our number one corner on their number two receiver where we know he's going to lock him down. And then on the other side, we have our number two corner on their number one receiver, and then we give them safety help. There's little things like that they can do that they couldn't do last year.
So I was surprised just how much we could really break down over the course of this clip. So I want to go through a few different things that kind of perked my attention. He says when he talks to people in the building, he's referring not to a security guard, not to a chef. These are people with influence making the decision. Now, I really hope that's not the case, because I don't want our top brass blabbing to the media. Don't want to see that. But it is nice to get some inside knowledge. Glad he's not talking to like a security guard. Guys were targeting Bryce Hall because he doesn't have the ball skills and knew it wouldn't be a turnover. This is kind of alarming. I was really hoping Bryce Hall would be like cornerback number 2, like a lock to be cornerback number 2. But I think if this is how other teams are viewing Bryce Hall, you have to put Bryce Hall in competition for cornerback 2 at best and really solve cornerback 1, because this is not good. You don't want guys targeting who we think is our top cornerback just because they know they're not going to get a turnover. You got to be able to generate some turnovers, create some opportunities, more opportunities for your offense to score points. And if Bryce Hall's not doing that, that's alarming. This is probably the most concerning part of this entire conversation that I heard. And then obviously the big nugget of information that we got to talk about is someone in the building wants to use a premium asset. They mentioned top 10, but it could be premium as in money in free agency as well. Want to use premium assets on cornerback number 1. That's the vibe coming out of One Jets Drive. Now, if you were to ask me in August how I would envision this draft kind of going, or this offseason in general, I would say edge rusher number 1, high in the draft. Cornerback would be where I would go with the Seattle pick. Now that both picks are in the top 10, I really wasn't kind of on board with going cornerback. I'll be honest. I was definitely looking more of the cornerback by committee. You throw a bunch of guys into the secondary and you see who can kind of rise to the top and create some competition and whatnot. So I wasn't really thinking cornerback in the top 10. There's a few guys that I like, but I'm not going to lie. There's one that really irks me. I'll get to that in just a second. But premium assets could mean free agency. It could mean the draft. So first up, we got to talk a little bit about free agency. Now, the Jets are going into free agency with a lot of young guys at cornerback. You have Bryce Hall, Brandon Echols, Michael Carter, guys in this secondary that don't have a lot of experience. They've only been in the league 2 years, or at most 2 years. Echols and Carter, 1 year. So you got to bring in some type of veteran presence. And there's a few guys that you can look at in free agency, guys like Carlton Davis. If you want to bring back bring a vet back into the division in Stephen Gilmore, you can look that route. He's getting a little bit older. Dante Jackson out of Carolina, Darius Williams out of Los Angeles, and I think who is going to be the most popular, at least by Jet fan standards, is J.C. Jackson, the cornerback from New England. By all reports, it sounds like this guy is going to be hitting the open market. No franchise tag for him, which is shocking because I thought for sure the Patriots would not want to lose this guy. But I love the idea of adding J.C. Jackson. He's probably more so than tight end my top free agent to target. It's weird to say that because tight end is just so critically important, but I think there's so many, at least average to decent tight ends in free agency and a bunch of good ones in the draft that I'm not as concerned about cornerback. And there's probably some other directions I may want to go in the draft where solving cornerback one in free agency does seem pretty attractive. It allows you to really wheel and deal in the draft and kind of go with what you want. And I love the idea of adding someone that is from a division rival that might have a little bit of irritation that they didn't want to retain him. You go up against your former team 2 times every single year. I love adding in a division rival to your team. I think it just adds extra fire for those 2 matchups. And look, you really cannot be upset with that. Now, in terms of the draft, there's a few options that people have really been talking about. And the Jets have been linked to cornerback through a few popular mock drafts and people that are in the know. Daniel Jeremiah had the Jets originally taking Trent McDuffie out of Washington. Now he has them taking Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati. Todd McShay, I believe, had the Jets taking Derek Stingley Jr. at number 10 at one point, and we've seen a bunch of mock drafts with Stingley going number 4 to the Jets over the course of the last year. So a lot of people definitely thinking cornerback could be a need, and I'll be honest, I wasn't really looking that high for cornerback. But how can what direction should we go in the draft? I don't want to touch Derek Stingley Jr. He's the one that probably scares me the most, the whole D. Milliner vibes with the injuries and everything. Guy hasn't really played a full season since his freshman year, which was phenomenal. But are you getting the guy from 3 years ago, or are you getting the guy that you've seen the last 2 years? That's something I don't want to touch in the top 10, particularly for the New York Jets. But a team like, someone that trades up, maybe Aaron Rodgers, goes to Denver. Denver wants to take another cornerback for some reason. And they want to pull the trigger there. That seems a little, or not Denver, I guess it would be the Packers at that. Whatever. I don't think the Jets are in a position to take an injury-prone cornerback. That's more so what I'm getting at. Trent McDuffie is an interesting one. I guess I sort of viewed him more as a slot-type corner, so I don't particularly want to go that route. The guy that I really want, and I think a guy that could really be taken a lot higher than maybe Jet fans want. A lot of us want to see Sauce Gardner at number 10 overall. It wouldn't shock me if they pulled the trigger at 4, to be perfectly honest. This guy's really, really good. Now, I don't want them to take him at 4, but if they pull the trigger at him at number 10, I'm all about it. I like Sauce Gardner a lot. He's my number 1 cornerback in this class. He's 6'3", 200 pounds, or at least that's what he's listed at. Maybe he's a little bit shorter. From the Cincinnati Bearcats. I was a Binghamton Bearcat, so not really my alma mater, but it makes me feel good about the Bearcats. This guy's elite. This guy's had a really good college career. Never allowed a touchdown through 3 years of college. He has 9 interceptions, 2 of which wound up going for touchdowns throughout his college career. He allowed 14 yards on 4 targets against Alabama in the college football playoffs, and he only allowed 131 yards the entirety of the season. This guy is insane. If you held Jamar Chase to 131 yards in one game, you would be considered good. This guy's doing it for an entire season. So really, really cool. He never allowed above a 50% completion percentage over the course of an entire season. I want to say this past year was just under 50%. And that was the highest of his 3 years. He's got an enormous wingspan at 6'2", 6'3". You're talking guy with huge reach. This is someone that could be like a Richard Sherman, only Richard Sherman was drafted, I think, in the 3rd or 4th round. But huge size, something that Robert Saleh definitely likes. Obviously had him both in San Francisco and in Seattle. And his IQ is off the charts. This guy just seems to know how to be around the ball, and he knows how to work his leverage. I really like this. And he's incredibly versatile. He played 397 press snaps this year. That was number 1 in all of college football. He had 209 snaps against man coverage or in man coverage, and 269 snaps in zone coverage. So he's incredibly versatile. The Jets played zone coverage, I think it was about 65% of the time. I think 35% was man, if I'm correct. I might be closer to 40. But either way, you want a guy that's incredibly versatile that can cause turnovers and generate more opportunities for your offense. So if the Jets are really serious about adding cornerback one and bringing in that dynamic type of defense, it just opens the whole world to your, well, to what you want to do on defense, right? Like, ideally, you have pass rushers blitzing the heck out of the quarterback so the guys don't have to cover that long. But then you have opportunities like your number one corner playing against their number two wide receiver, and then all of a sudden you get to shade some more coverages to their number one. Maybe you bait the quarterback into throwing that direction, but you have a safety spying over the top. These are opportunities that the Jets did not get this past year because our secondary was just so bad. So secondary is absolutely a critical piece of this team moving forward. But how do the Jets handle it? Do they go free agent route with someone like J.C. Jackson or a Carlton Davis, or do they go someone in the draft like a Stingley or a Sauce Gardner? Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Is there a direction you would like to see the Jets go? Is there a player you particularly want to see the Jets target? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, go Jets.